And we are live from the Gold Coast, Australia. Welcome back, everyone, to Priceless Takes, episode 77. I am your host, Luca Price. Joining me today, the panel, as always, Oscar, Ruben, and Tyson. How are we today, guys?
Very, very good. Thank you.
Good. Doing well.
Listen, I've been quite excited for this episode for quite some time, being number 77, being the number of Luka Doncic. And I was expecting to do, some cool little things, but he's out of the playoffs. So we're going to have to keep moving on here with the conference semifinals. Guys, we haven't had an episode since midway through the first round. So since then, the second round has begun. We've put our predictions online. And so far, some of us are doing better than others. Listen, as the person who's lone picked the Pacers to beat the Cavs, I think I'm in a pretty good position. And as the person who none of us also picked the Knicks to beat the Celtics. And to be fair, it still might not happen, but that is where we're going to start today, guys. Because the Knicks take a 2-0 lead over the Celtics on the road in both games after multiple 20-point comebacks in Game 1 and 2. Game 1 going to overtime. Game 2 winning by 1 point. Listen, guys, this is the same story for the Celtics back-to-back games. Look, for the series, the Knicks have been doing a lot better shooting the ball. The Celtics, we know what they've been about. They shoot the three-pointer at an extremely high clip. 73 missed three-pointers is the most amount of three-pointers missed in 2 consecutive games in NBA history. That's what the story is for this series, guys. Ruben, I'm going to go straight to you on this one. Do you think the Celtics are finished in this series, and what do you think needs to change if they do somehow mount a comeback?
Absolutely. I don't think that. Absolutely not. Because you look at New York, they've been amazing on the road. I don't think they've dropped a game. But then when you look at the inverse, they've dropped games at Madison Square Garden. So you looking at that, I don't think it's impossible. And like we talk about all these missed threes, it's been like very close possession games. So Celtics are obviously not out of it. I think the adjustments they need to make is one, playing Porzingis more. Like I was telling Tyson about this. Like you look at the post matchup exploitations last season, that was all off Porzingis. Yesterday he played like 14 minutes, I think, and in the fourth quarter he scored like 8 points, and then they took him off, which I don't understand. And look, I know the Celtics shoot a lot of threes, but I saw Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, whenever they drove the ball, they were quite successful, especially when they switched on the defense and had Jalen Brunson as the main defender. So I don't think they need to be as complacent from the three, and they just need to hold on to the lead. Even though in the current NBA, 20-point lead is nothing nowadays, especially looking at all these second-round playoff matches.
Hey, man.
Yeah, look, as Rube said, like nowadays, no lead is really secure at this point, unless you're maybe 30. Because like
Even 30.
Well, yeah, I was watching the OKC game and I said, "Oh, it's not done yet. It's not done yet." But no,
That was done.
no, that was well done. But no, like Celtics, I thought they definitely had the ability to sweep them when they're like playing their best basketball in control, and that's what they were showing for about 3 quarters. And then once it gets down the stretch, I just felt like they were settling for too many threes. Like any opportunity they were open on the 3-point line, they were just firing away. It was multiple possessions where I think Drew Holiday got 2 offensive rebounds, passed it back out, and then 2 more threes fired up. But I think down the stretch, can't quite recall game 1, but game 2, Joe Mazzulla did not call a timeout down the stretch, and it was quite crucial because, as you know,
with 10 seconds left.
Particularly when you saw the shot they got as well.
Yeah, exactly,
Yes.
and trapped down into you got trapped down into the Mikal Bridges chamber in the corner again. It was not a good look. So I don't think they're necessarily done, but I think when it comes down to close, like possession by possession games, I think Knicks always will close that out. So, but I just never thought it would come to that, especially at home. So.
Yeah, well, you can say a lot about the Celtics offense. Obviously, they shoot a lot of threes, but that's their brand. When you shoot that much, you're going to eventually have games where you do miss. I want to more talk about their defense when they are up by 20. When they were up by 20, the comfortability that they had and just missing out on simple effort, on defense, missing, ball watching, missing switches, not running back on defense. There's a clip of Drew Holiday, who's supposed to be one of the best defenders in the league, pointing at the player in front of him, waiting for Jason to pick him up instead of going after the ball himself on a transition play. Just simple stuff that, I'd tell my year sixes that I coach to do. And you've got Joe Mazzulla, who's supposed to be this hard and tough guy who loves seeing players hustle and loves seeing players bleed and gives two-word answers in interviews. And he's supposed to be spreading that message to his team. And it just seems like when he's up by 20, then he's not doing that. And they're not doing that. And they're allowing the New York Knicks to get easy buckets and get back into the game. So I think when they go to Madison Square Garden, which is going to be brutal for them in terms of crowd and atmosphere, that's what needs to change the most. Is when they are up, don't take the foot off the pedal and keep going and keep playing good defense and keep shooting the ball and keep going to the hole. They just taken the foot off the gas and that's why they've blown 2 20-point leads.
Yeah, look, they really got to lock in here, guys, and this is the first real bit of adversity they've sort of faced since they really went on their championship run last year. They had a pretty cruisy road all the way through to the championship. Even the last series against the Magic, they had a cruisy road through that series, and now this is the first time we've really seen them face some adversity. But the other thing that concerns me, guys, is Jalen Brunson had 8 points through 3 quarters yesterday. Do we think that's going to happen again? In the same way that we can say the Celtics the Celtics need to shoot better from the three, I'm not expecting Jalen Brunson to have 8 points through 3 quarters for the rest of the series, for the rest of the playoffs. That matter.
Missed the clutch though. He's missed the clutch.
And he had 9 points in the fourth quarter. He reeled it back in. He made some big shots down the stretch. Mikal Bridges was the guy in the fourth quarter on both ends of the floor, having 14 in the fourth quarter and 2 back-to-back games having crucial defensive stops, which maybe Tyson might have been the reason they didn't call a timeout after what happened in game 1. We never really know, but I still think that Jason Tatum shooting 25% from 3, okay, and Jaylen Brown shooting 18% from 3 is not sustainable, okay? Jason Tatum having 18 points a game, that better not be sustainable, okay? And the last time the Celtics won in the Garden was in an overtime game, and Kristaps Porzingis balled out, who, like you said, couldn't even clock 15 minutes off the bench yesterday and went 3 for 6 when he was on the court. So something needs to change for the Celtics. I think the threes are going to fall. I think they're really going to show us why they are the champions. And I'm going to come up with a bold prediction, guys. I think the Celtics are going to win the next 4 games in a row and not sweep, but win this series in 6 games. Okay, that's really what I think is going to happen. I think they're going to find their gear. And I think when the Celtics are firing, as good as the Knicks are defensively with OG and Mikal, and Hart for that matter, when the Celtics are firing, they are nearly unbeatable. And I don't think we're going to see this slump just continue for the rest of the series. Any thoughts, Ruben, on if you think the Celtics, what chance do you give them to come back before we move on?
Oh, look, I give them a very massive chance. And look, we're talking about the 3-point attempts. They're going to fall at some point. And look, like, I know Oscar, they shoot threes, but I think they usually attempt like 30 or 40. In the last 2 games, they've had 100 attempts, which is average 50 attempts. Like, if you cut that down a little bit and just add in an extra couple of threes, then they're going to be able to get over the line, because the Knicks have looked vulnerable against the Pistons, and they were all close games, and these have been close games. The Knicks just aren't the same as they were last season, and they're only just scraping by with the Celtics being so inefficient.
I agree. I agree that they should cut down on the 3-point attempts, but that is their brand of basketball. They're not. Offensively. That's not what they're going to really look to change. I don't think as much as what they should be doing on defense is when they are up by 20, actually play defense instead of.
Well, I thought they played pretty good defense on Brunson, because he only had 8 points in the first 3 quarters, like Lucas said.
When they're up by 20, when they were up by 20, they took their foot straight off the pedal, and they were walking back. They were ball watching. They were missing switches, and that's when New York was actually allowed, to hit some shots, and they had some open threes and open lanes to the basket in the end of the third and the fourth, and that's when they came back in both games. So I think there is something to change on the offensive side. Maybe a few less threes and go to the rim more, because they looked really good going to the rim. But when you're up by 20, keep going, keep playing. Don't take your foot off the gas.
Well, as good as I think Derek, I don't think anyone's been amazing for the Celtics. The fact that I think Derek White's been the best player for the Celtics, I don't think he can be the best player to get the Celtics over the line against that star-studded Knicks team.
I mean, even with their offensive game plan, they've both been very, very close games. So I think changing that thing on the defensive side of things, it will help a lot more than changing the offensive game.
Agreed.
T, thoughts on them? How do you think? Give them a good chance to come back?
Definitely for sure. Ooh, probably like 6, 7 out of 10. Definitely think they can come back. Either 4 in a row or 7-game series.
I think they'll drop one at the MSG, and I think
Yeah,
that New York,
I think it'll go to 7 for sure.
I think New York, if they win,
3-1.
yeah,
You're saying?
yeah, the next out of the next four, 3-1. But I think
Yeah.
if New York win the next one, I would be scared to be in New York because they might burn the city down. They might. There might be no New York left if New York win the next game. So just watch out if you're in New York.
Yeah, you might be right. Listen, crazier things have happened, guys. We saw the Kawhi Leonard, Paul George Clippers go down 2-0 at home to the Doncic Dallas Mavericks a few years ago. They ended up coming back and winning the series in 7 games. So it has happened before. We're going to switch across to the other Eastern Conference series, which also has the underdogs up 2-0. The Pacers steal game 2 on the road in Cleveland to go up against a Cavs team that was missing Garland, Mobley, and DeAndre Hunter. Look, guys, crazy sequence at the end of the game. Halliburton misses his own free throw, gets his own rebound, dribbles the ball back, hits a three-pointer with 1 second left on the clock. Similar story, guys. The Cavs led by 20 points in the middle of the third quarter of Game 2. They were outscored 36-21 in the fourth quarter. A very balanced effort from the Pacers, which has been the theme of their team for the last several years now. And guys, the shocking stat we've all seen, NBA teams are 3 wins to 1,640 losses when trailing by at least 7 points in the final minute of the fourth quarter or overtime since the 1997-1998 NBA season. And guys, the Pacers have 2 of these wins in the last week. That is pretty crazy. And guys, I'm going to start on this one because I am the one that had the Pacers here. I picked the Pacers to beat the Cavs in 5. I think that's looking very good right now. And look, despite the injuries for the Cavs, I still think that the Cavs completely blew this game. And it's similar to, I think, how the Lakers made mental mistakes in round 1. The mental mistakes being made by the Cavaliers was just inexcusable. First, you had the Aaron Nesmith put-back dunk free throw. Then you had the Donovan Mitchell offensive foul, which gave the ball back to the Pacers. Then you have Donovan Mitchell not boxing out Halliburton, that was his job to box out Halliburton. And all of those 3 things contribute to you being down game 2. And in my opinion, the Cavs are not as good as the Celtics, particularly not with their players, and I'm nearly ready to write this series off, knowing what I know the Pacers can do at home and how they were very, very good against the Bucks at home. The Pacers, guys, they're so efficient every game. They had 5 players with 50% or more field goal in Game 2. They had 6 players in Game 1, and that's the story of their team. They shoot efficiently. Halliburton didn't even need to clock 20 points. He still only missed 4 shots for the entire game. I think the Pacers have this series wrapped up. Oscar, what are your thoughts? Your Cavaliers, you've been so high on the entire season. They find themselves facing a bit of adversity themselves. How do you think they can go moving forward?
I was very disappointed in their game 1 performance. I think that there are a few issues that they did fix for game 2. I think they still have a very good chance of coming back in this series and winning the next 2. You talked about the Pacers' home record, which is very good, but the Cavs' away record is also very good. So I think that is quite even. But what I did really like is that Donovan Mitchell, who led in that second game, especially where he dropped 48 points, even after the game, even when he missed that rebound and he didn't box out, and he had the ability to grab that rebound and he didn't, which then turned the ball over. He put up his hand even after scoring 48 points. You can't ask much more from him. He put up his hand and said, "Yeah, this one's on me. This one's my fault. Let's get ready for game 3." There was no mental battle there, or there was no real weighing on the previous game. It was, let's go into the next game. Let's find a way to win the next game and take it one game at a time. So I still think that the Cavs have a really good chance. They're very well coached. I don't think Garland's going to be back next game. I think he's
not looking
he's
good,
not looking
but
good. But I think Mobley is, which will be very good because he played very good in game one. So I think I give him a good chance of at least winning the next game, if not the next two, and then going home and trying to win the next three in a row and see what happens after that.
Tyson?
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't think you can completely write off the Cavs just yet, but you do have to obviously respect what the Pacers have done
Oh,
so
they've been
far,
brilliant.
especially on the road. But the fact that the Cavs were still able to, compete down to two of their four best players is still incredible. And, their mentality and the next person to step up mentality was still there. But especially with Mobley coming back, for those rebounds, I think it's definitely crucial
And
down
the
the
defense.
stretch. And the defense for sure. Definitely can't write them out, but yeah, look, I don't know who I'm going to pick now. I'm going to let Rubes talk first. So.
I'm very worried for the Cavs because look, the Pacers are very good at home, but they're shocking away. They're 500 guys. And before January, they were 16 and 18. They were not even a 500 team, and they've ended 15-32. So props to them. But I think a big reason for this Pacers surgence in these last two games is actually Andrew Nemhard. Because in that 16 and 18 run, they were Andrew Nemhard wasn't in those games. Their record's 5-10 without him. And guys, we talk about the Cavs injuries, but did we look at Halliburton at the start of the second quarter, wincing at his wrist? He didn't look 100%. And when he wasn't 100%, Andrew Nemhard stepped up with 13 assists. I think, look, Nemhard's able to step into that really well. He provides you really good defense. And I just think you have multiple players being able to step up for the Pacers, whereas Cavs, Donovan Mitchell's just trying to do too much. He was jacking up shots in game one and game two. And I think he just got tired at the end of the game, trying to get the rebound and everything. So look,
doesn't help
it's
when
obviously,
Ty
he's
Jerome
got to take...
goes 1 of 14.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that as well. I was complaining about that to you guys in the group chat. I don't know who Ty Jerome thinks he is. I know he had good bench production in the regular season, but he shot 7 of 17 game one, 1 of 14 game two. Max Strus was shooting really well. Why not give him some extra shots? There's other players in the Cavs team who can step up. They've got good depth, despite having those players out. But
even Sam Merrill off the bench, he was shooting pretty well in that second game.
Well, he didn't have a good game one, but he was definitely better coming off the bench. But I just think the Pacers just seem to be a more balanced team, and I'm quite worried about them considering that they got both games of Cleveland. I find it very hard to see them dropping both at Indiana, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Listen, guys, Tyrese Halliburton, 10 of 11 when hitting game-tying or leading shots in the final 2 minutes of the regular season and the playoffs. Tyson, fact or fiction, the Pacers are legitimate championship contenders. What are your thoughts?
Fiction.
Jesus.
Well, compared to other teams, I don't think the ability to take it to the next level and fully close out on the biggest four. So,
Look, before I say what I think, what do you think? Do you think it's fact or fiction that they can win the championship?
Well, I think they can.
Okay.
And
okay.
I think they can, but I think it depends I think it depends on what happens in the Knicks series. I think they can legitimately beat the Knicks.
Are we talking about to win the championship?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, well, listen. Now that I think the Lakers are gone, one of these young teams likely are going to be coming out of the West. It could be Golden State, it could be Denver, but I would give the Pacers a shot to beat Oklahoma City or Minnesota if either of those two teams come out of the finals. The problem for the Pacers, I think, is the Celtics. But I think they beat them. They can get to the Knicks. I think they can do what they did last year.
So you last year you were an Indiana Pacers absolute hater. Wrote them off at every direction, and you've got the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are also another very well coached, well balanced team, and the Indiana Pacers are beating them, and you've written them off as well as champions. So just because they're well coached and they're a well balanced team, and for the whole last 3 years that we've been doing this show, you've been like, you need a star, you need someone that can go out and score 48 points in a finals matchup, and now you're saying that the Pacers can win because they're a well coached, well balanced team.
Yeah, well, I think if I'm being honest, I think it speaks to a larger point of how sort of the direction of the NBA might be changing. And I think it's less now. What we saw with the Celtics last year is that they didn't necessarily. We saw Jaylen Brown win Finals MVP, okay, when Jaylen Brown's not their best player. Okay, so I think it's speaking more to how these teams, okay, it's not so much about do you have an all-time generational player, which, yes, does help, but we saw last year that you don't need an all-time legend to win a championship.
But the Celtics still had one, if not two.
And you got to realize
all-time generational
Not
players.
all-time,
No, they don't.
not all-time generational, but still one of the best players in the league.
Look, you got to realize their third, fourth, and fifth options could all be second options on another team. Like
exactly,
they're not just regular great just regular role players.
When you've got 5 all-stars on your team, it's a little bit. That's like saying the Golden State Warriors in 2017. Oh, they're a well-balanced team, but they have 6 all-stars on the team.
Look, the Pacers, I think they've... I don't quite understand what you're actually saying.
You're saying the Pacers you're saying the Pacers can win the championship because they're a well-coached, all-round team. But I'm saying the past 3 years you've been saying you need a star, you need someone that in a game 7 can lock in, and I don't think...
I know, and I think, like I said, I think it speaks to how the landscape of the NBA is changing, and I think we're not used to seeing teams have 5-6 guys consistently hitting 50% from the field. We're used to seeing star players doing the majority of the heavy lifting, and then they only really need one extra player to come along for the ride, and that's how teams have been built. That's in a way how the Golden State Warriors are built this year. And we're going to see them, in my opinion, I think they're going to fall out of the playoffs. We saw that's how the Lakers were built this year, with 2 star players needing someone extra to come along for the ride. And we've seen them get bounced from the playoffs. And the teams that are left in the playoffs, apart from the Nuggets, really, okay, and I guess the Warriors, you see the Timberwolves and the Thunder, Shea is, yes, the star player. Anthony Edwards is, yes, the star player. But they have well-balanced teams. We saw McDaniels pop off in the Lakers series. We saw Randall do great in the Lakers series. We've seen J-Dub, Chet be emerging stars for the Thunder in the same way that we've seen Halliburton become a star. Andrew Nembhard was the first playoff game in his playoff career where he hasn't hit 3 3-pointers in a playoff game. He was 0 for 4 yesterday. Okay, the Knicks to a certain extent. They have Brunson as the star, but they still have those players that can come along for the ride, and they're able to overcome Brunson having 8 points through 3 quarters. So I think for me, what I've seen, and this is just the eye test thing for me, before, yes, I did used to think that you did need that player, okay, that could go and get you that huge Game 7 numbers, but I think the teams that are left in the NBA, the teams that won the championship last year, we've seen that I think the dynamic of what type of team it takes to win a championship is slowly starting to change in the NBA, and I think that's also the reason that my opinion is starting to change.
So in the conference finals, the Eastern Conference Finals, if it looks like the way it's going to go right now, which is Pacers versus Knicks, do you think the Pacers are going to beat the Knicks?
I would need to see how the Knicks beat the Celtics first, but in the same
right
way
now,
that right now,
if it was game 4, they both just swept.
Right now, I think the Pacers are playing better than the Knicks are right now. Based on the first 2 games of their respective series, and maybe you could say, the Celtics are a harder opposition than the Cavs. I don't really, at this point, I think both of the teams have, done their thing. I would think the Pacers are playing better basketball right now than the Knicks.
No, I agree with that.
But yeah, I think they do. I think they have a legitimate chance to win based on the teams that are left, okay, and based on how good they're playing right now. We saw them have a historic Game 7 last year against the Knicks, where the whole team shot 66% from 2 and 60% from 3 through 3.5 quarters. So, look, I'm coming around on them, and that's just something that, unfortunately, sometimes I got to take the L when it comes to some things. I backed them. I didn't back them last year. I've seen the light a little bit, and I've been the one, guys, because at the end of the day, I was the one that picked the Pacers to win this series. You guys all thought the Cavs were going to win. So,
the series not over.
It's not over, but look, I'm putting my money where my mouth is, all right? And we're going to continue Okay, into the Western Conference now. We are a bit short for time, but we'll still get through it. Thunder versus Nuggets, guys. Game 3. The Nuggets stole game 1. The Thunder blew them out in game 2, okay, which I think was a must-need for the Thunder. If that game 2 was somewhat close, I would be very nervous as an Oklahoma City fan heading into game 3. I think the fact they blew them out really nullifies that game 1, okay, because they really put their foot on Denver. They asserted their dominance, guys. Shea averaging 34 points for the series. Jokic had a huge game 1, still averaging 30, 15, and 6. Guys, T-Man, who wins game 3? What are your thoughts on the series so far?
I think it's another great series because you've got the two best, or the two top MVP candidates going at each other. Um, all on full display. You got Aaron Gordon having a legacy run in the playoffs, showing his talent. Look, I think it's a great series to watch, but I still do think Thunder will close out this series as Denver. Just I don't think they can compete with the younger, well-built team anymore. Um, because especially Michael Porter Jr. Disappearing, Jamal Murray, but can't rely on him all the time. Yeah, my opinion, I think Thunder will win Game 3 as well. Set a good standard on the road, especially with their road record as well. And yeah, I don't think the Nuggets home court will be that defendable. So yeah.
Look, I think Thunder will win Game 3, but we can't discount like how hot it is to play in Denver in that climate. I just like looking at Game 2. Like you had 8 Thunder players score over 10 points, and as Adelman said, they just started off too slow, and they're letting Westbrook get his production. Like he's averaged like 18 points across these 2 games. So he's been at times quite inefficient. Like when you look at how well he was shooting from 3 against the Clippers, he's averaging 22% from 3. But they might have a coaching edge over the Nuggets, and that might be able just to get them over the line because you look at game 1, it took a clutch bucket from Aaron Gordon and another 40
Two
and
missed free
20.
throws.
Yeah, and Chet missed free throws. Thanks, Oscar. And another 40-point, 20 rebound game from Jokic to get them over the line. So look, it's obviously not the same Denver, and we'll have to see what they're going to do in the offseason, but I'm not liking their chances against this Thunder team.
Yeah, well, I agree. I think OKC should be up 2 if Chet hit his free throws and he missed both. So I think the Thunder close it out, win the next 3.
Yeah, listen, guys. The Thunder they tied the record with the most points in any half last game.
That's
We know
ridiculous.
the record was in 1978 previously. Okay, so we know the explosiveness that this team has. Okay, I hate to harp on the previous point, but they had 8 players score 10 plus points in that game, albeit a blowout. But they have players that can get it done. Multiple different players, multiple different ways, and I think that's something Denver doesn't have. I think that this team it has too much firepower. Okay, I think the Clippers in a way were a similar enough team to Denver, where in the end, because Denver just had the better
Game
star
7, Holly.
players. Okay, yes, okay, correct. I'm not going to harp on too much about James Harden now. I've sort of had my tantrum about that off camera, so we won't really relive that. But I think when you look at what Jokic has to go up against, I think he's just simply too overmatched. And I think that the Thunder really just have the pieces to beat them. I think Denver can steal. I think it would be stealing, really, in a way, because the Thunder are heavily favored in this series, despite the score being even. I think Denver still can win another game, but I expect the Thunder to win in 6 games, and I expect them to advance to the conference finals. Interested to see how this one goes, but I think this series, I think out of all of the playoff series, I think this one, I feel like I have the most clarity on, to be honest, compared to the other 3. And that leads us to tonight's game, guys. Warriors at Timberwolves game 2. Warriors without Steph for most of game 1 after leading with a hamstring strain, who's not playing tonight,
13 minutes.
still managed to get the win. They lost game 1 at home after having an extended rest period, which the Warriors did not have. Buddy Hield, 24 points on 62.5% from 3. Draymond stepping up offensively, 18, 8, and 6. And Jimmy Butler giving you his usual 20 points per game in the playoffs, guys. Ant had 1 point in the first half, okay, which just is unspeakable considering how well he played in the Lakers series. the whole of Minnesota just wasn't there in game one. Pat Spencer was hitting skyhooks on them. The Warriors went deep into the bench and still managed to beat them quite convincingly. Guys, is this a must-win for the Timberwolves, and how do they approach the series without Steph Curry, Ruben?
Yes, it's a must-win, and I'm so disappointed by Minnesota last game. I've backed Minnesota from the start of the season. I'm their biggest diehard fan right now. Shout out OC. But look, without Curry, they seriously need to get this done. And I don't care how they need to get it done, but they need to get it done. Like, you look at Draymond, like you said, Luca, having that ridiculous offensive production. And I've seen this clip online. They were like, oh, we shot 7 of 47 from 3 against the Lakers and we still beat them in 5. Like, that's not something to gloat about. You actually need to improve that efficiency, because we are in the NBA now where you need to shoot better from 3. And I think you need to contain Jimmy Butler. You need to contain the 3-point percentage, especially from Buddy Hield. And Dante Nas, step up. And Julius Randle, you were amazing against the Lakers. You were a no-show last game. So all these players need to step up, especially while Steph Curry's out. Because if they don't pick up this game, they're in deep trouble. Very big trouble.
Well, no, I agree. I think they've just been shocked by actually versing a good defensive team from what they versed against the Lakers, where the defense
I think they
was
played better as an underdog, but that's another argument.
Well, that's whatever. But I think against the Lakers, the Lakers were gassed in the second half. The defense was pretty much nowhere to be seen. And now you're versing a team who's got some of the best defenders, in the league on their team, who knows how to rotate and switch. Well, Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I would say like the
aging defenders.
Aging defenders, but still Jimmy and Draymond.
Okay.
Draymond was a finalist for Depoy. Like, what are we saying?
No, I completely agree with Draymond, but I don't know how.
Jimmy had 2 steals and he's leading the offense.
Yeah, okay, I agree.
He's still doing his thing. So I just think I think they were shocked about a team being actually able to play defense for 4 quarters, which is what we saw. The Timberwolves again in the Lakers series, every first half they were amazing. They came out and scored the 25 plus points a quarter in the first 2 halves, and first 2 quarters, and now they're scoring 11 in the second. So I think they've just been shocked by a team that can play defense for 45 minutes. And I think this is also a real, in this next game that's, on in 5 minutes, I think it's a real opportunity for Buddy Hield to step up, and without Curry, he's been on a downtrend on his career points and percentage, not quite percentages, but career points and minutes since Sacramento. And I think with Curry out and with what he's done in the last 2 games, he's a real opportunity to step up into that main scorer, main 3-point guy, that Curry role with help from Jimmy Butler, and really be that number 1 option with Jimmy Butler to support him. So I think that's going to be good to look out for in the next couple hours.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, I think the Timberwolves defense could, sort of have a bit of a break from running off-ball Curry screens, chasing around the 3-point line. But I think Buddy Hield's going to step into that role straight away. So I don't think there's going to be any sort of break for the Minnesota Timberwolves defense when you've got a guy that can sort of replicate that same behavior. And he's shown it recently. He's been balling Buddy Hield. So it's going to be crucial for Minnesota's bench production. That's definitely a key point. But the Warriors, they're always going to have a mentality of going at it regardless. Like Kerr's game plan, like their defense, they're all locked in. Like everyone knows their role in the team. Besides Kuminga, probably, I don't know about that, but everyone knows their role. They're going to play their role. They're going to do everything they can with the minutes they get, and they're going to be optimistic the whole time. So, yeah, it will definitely be crucial to win game 2, but I do think Minnesota should close it out, especially without Curry.
Also, I just want to touch on really quick. I know we don't have a lot of time left. I think Minnesota's defense was actually really good in that first game. I don't think the defense was bad. Obviously, Curry went out, but you still kept the Warriors under 100 points.
Houston had good defense, and they lost in 7 games, so they need
No,
to
no,
step
no,
up.
no, no, no. I was about to get onto that point. Is
And
their
the offense,
defense their defense was really good. The issue was they're scoring 11 points in a quarter, and they're not starting the way that they started in the Lakers series. So I think the defense of the Timberwolves was fairly good against the Warriors in that first game. It's the offense that needs to step up. No one in the Warriors scored over 30 points. So Buddy Hield scored 24 and Jimmy scored 20 and Draymond scored 18, which was enough. But I think just Anthony Edwards needs to come out and not score until a bucket until the second half. So
Yeah. For me, I think this is why they got Jimmy Butler. Like Steph's injured now. They still got Draymond. You got Jimmy Butler for this reason, because Steph can't be the only guy. They're a one-dimensional team when Steph is the only guy. Okay, so if I'm the Warriors, I'm thinking, this is why we got him. And I think Jimmy Butler's done more with less. I think that this team right now, I think, is better, to be honest with you, than those 2 Miami teams he carried to the NBA Finals, particularly in the second run when Tyler Hero was out for the entire playoffs. So Jimmy needs to step up, and this will be a big game for him. I think Jimmy Butler needs to have a big game, even if it's a win or a loss, because if Jimmy Butler can assert that he is still that guy, regardless of win or loss, that is still going to make the Timberwolves fear them a little bit. So I still expect the Timberwolves to win this game. I expect the Timberwolves to also win Game 3. But I do think the Warriors tie this one up in Game 4. I'm very worried about Steph Curry, guys. For someone who moves as much as he does, a hamstring injury is the last thing that he needs.
Wasn't that his first hamstring as well? Yeah, it wasn't his first
Sorry?
one. I was saying, wasn't it his first one? Like his first hamstring. It's the first time he's tweaked it.
I think so, and they tend to linger around for years.
Yeah, I do think so. But I think it's one of those situations where you can't force Steph back into the lineup. And I hate to keep harping on the Clippers, but last year they tried to force Kawhi Leonard back into the lineup for 2 games, and he played horrible, and they got destroyed by Dallas.
I mean, the one thing I do know about Steph is Steph will play. Like, he will want to play. And yeah, he obviously
100%.
you don't want to force him back into the lineup, but he can still tend to play well or all right as a second option.
Yeah, well, we saw KD want to play in an NBA final series, and then look what happened to him.
But I've just seen Steph, KD and Steph, I don't think they have the same mental attitude towards something like that. And Steph, we've seen play injured in games and play pretty well injured in games.
Yeah.
So I think he'll want to come back as soon as possible. Don't know if they're going to rest him for 1 game or 2, but he'll want to come back as soon as possible, as soon as he's feeling ready. And he'll know when he feels ready.
If I'm the Warriors, I think I can win one of the next 3 games, okay, and have this series tied up at 2-2. And then that, I think, would put Steph Curry in a prime position for a Game 5 return in Minnesota. That's my ideal plan, because if I go down 3-1, then look, maybe you do play him in that Game 4 to really try get, to 2-2. Not saying that they can't win any of the next 2 games. I just don't think they will. But Oscar, before we go through our quick predictions tonight, I'm going to give you the chance to flip your pick to the Timberwolves. You were the only one that picked the Warriors. Do you still like the Warriors in this series without Steph?
Yeah. I do. Thank you very much. I think Jimmy's going to play very well with Steph out, and I think Buddy's going to step up into the number 1 option.
And in terms of tonight, Oscar, you can start us off, then Tyson, then Ruben to finish. Who wins this game tonight, and how many do you think they win by?
I'm going to say the Warriors are going to continue on without Steph and win tonight, putting them in a prime position to take the series. And I think Jimmy Butler is going to drop 30 plus, and I think they are going to win by 12.
That's a big call, team.
Wolves and I think the Wolves will win today, and they will close out the series. They'll definitely take advantage of no Curry for sure. So yeah, definitely Timberwolves.
Minnesota.
They had half a game without Curry. They had half a game without Curry last game. They didn't take very much good advantage of it.
And they shot poorly. I don't think they'll shoot poorly again. So.
Minnesota, please do not choke this. I've literally got my hands together for you right now. Please do not. I don't think they will choke it, but it'll be closer than what people think. I think Minnesota win by 8.
I think Jimmy's a
But
very
very
scary
close.
thought if I'm a Minnesotan.
Yeah, I agree with Oscar, but in terms of attendance in the round, like the 12-point blowout, so well, not really a blowout at 12 points, but
I think
I,
it'll
I
trickle
think
out to 12.
I think the Timberwolves win by 12 instead of the Warriors. I'm looking at Anthony Edwards needs to get a strong start to the game. And I'm looking at Dante DiVincenzo, 1 for 3,
He's been so
sorry,
bad.
1 for 7 in game one. I expect a big Dante game, particularly at home. I think he can come up with the goods. We'll see how these predictions pan out in our next episode. But that is all we have time for today, guys. Once again, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for the insight. We're going to see how these predictions pan out, hopefully with another early episode early next week. We'll see how we go. Thoughts before we leave, guys? Anything?
No, good.
No. Ruben's got the Wolves. I've got the Pacers, okay? And we all seem to have the Celtics. So we'll see how this ends up going out, guys. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, at the handle at Priceless Takes, posted below in the description. I'm your host, Luca Price. This has been Priceless Takes. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.